hate maths. Sorry. America. Math. I'm an American now. I abhor it.
No math.
That means I really, really hate it. Why? It's done nothing to me. It's also done nothing for me. Or has it? Point is, hate it. But I believe you should face your fears head on. Wait, you're afraid of maths? No, I'm not. Not at all. Phones? Yes.
That's just stupid.
Maths? Nope, not even remotely. Negative. I hate maths. That said, let's talk about Squirrel Math. That's not the math I hate, because the math I hate is human math. This is Squirrel Math, which is super cute. Adorbs. Look at the little faces and the tiny little hands. Oh my God, look at that beautiful. Where I come from, which is not around these parts, there's no such thing as a squirrel. Squirrel glider, but that's a possum. A possum is a marsupial, one of Australia's less showy ones. Antipodean weirdness at its best. Actually, no. You want real Aussie weirdness? Look into monotremes.
This is the echidna.
That'll blow your mind. You scream, I scream, we all scream for monotremes! Sorry, feeling a bit squirrely today. The too long didn't read version of monotremes is they're mammals that lay eggs. I don't know.
Monotremes keep their eggs in their pouches.
You're weird. So weird. Shit! We've come all this way and I haven't even told you what we're talking about today. Today, faithful mind spelunkers, we're digging into a little thing that I wrote called Introduction to Squirrel Math, Art is Nuts. This quality piece of writing, and I'm talking absolute top shelf writing.
It could be better.
Joyfully blends together the smoothest of nut butters, or is it chunkiest?
Is it chunky?
It gets a bit chunky at times, I will admit. Point is, it blends together the concept of squirrel math,
Squirrels, mostly.
which you've probably never heard of before, with art.
Art!
And how to make art, you've got to be a little bit nuts.
You're nuts!
Nuts! And also collect nuts and make nuts. But mostly collect nuts. Nuts! So many nuts today.
That's too much.
Students,
Let's find out together.
are you ready? Let's learn. Now, the concept of squirrel math, which I wrote about, was 100%, there's your first number, 100% inspired by a headline I read that went a little bit like this. It said, squirrels do not find 80% of the nuts that they hide.
What a loser.
It might have said bury. Doesn't matter. Burying is hiding. Because they also put them in other places. Anywhere that you can stuff an acorn or any kind of nut. You don't need to bury them. So if they don't find 80% of them, that means they only find 20%? Believe that's right. Janeen maths. Anyway, that got me thinking about how they must know they're not going to find all these nuts, which is why they collect so many.
Too many!
Because that 20% that they are going to find, that needs to be a lot of nuts if they're going to survive. It's like they overcompensate, but really, they're just thinking ahead. Squirrel math. I mean, that's how they end up in situations like this. And this.
The couple says they've been curious about what happened to all those walnuts.
Anyway, storage to use later, squirreling away, bing! Idea for writing.
That is how it works.
I'm just showing you that that's how it happens, folks. You just read some random thing and suddenly you've got an idea, and that's how easy it can be.
It's not so hard.
Sometimes you're just clutching at the acorns, and you can hang a very slight hat idea onto a very small hat hook to get it done. Scrambling a bit here. Let's bury that nut and not find it.
Squirrel.
So, got the headline, got the idea of storage, of collecting nuts. What could the nuts represent? She says, pretending like she doesn't know, as if she hasn't already written the thing and published it. She should go read. No pressure. Storage, collection, putting things in safe places so that one can return to them later and consume them in some way. Who else does that? Artists. I'm using artists in the loosest sense of the word, to encompass us all. Anyone who does anything creatively. Artist. So much like the squirrel collects the nut, artists collect nuts of their own. I'm talking creative influences. I'm talking reading books. I'm talking going to art galleries, listening to music, experiencing film. These are all the inspirational nuts that they collect to influence their own work. They create their own nuts. The more nuts you collect...
These nuts.
Or as I called them in the piece, inspo nuts, the more you have stored so that you can come back to and find later. Maybe you'll never find them. Doesn't really matter. It's all in there. It all influences you in some way. And some things are directly expressed through your nuts. The stuff that you make from the inspo nuts in Squirrel Math terms is calculated into units of your own work, which I called not so nuts, because that's the kind of joke I like. But I'm jumping way ahead. We haven't even done any squirrel facts, and I know you're here for the facts.
Just the facts, ma'am.
These might be not entirely factual, because it's tied to squirrel math. Math. Which is a made-up thing, but squirrels are real.
Squirrel math.
It seems like nary a week goes by where the Greeks don't stick their marble-headed noggins into something.
Well, if it sounds like Greek, it probably is Greek.
What have they got to do with squirrels?
Let's find out together.
I wonder if there's anything I can mispronounce this week. I know. Sciuridae. Squirrels are members of the Sciuridae family.
Sciuridae.
But the word squirrel, if I am to believe everything that I read on the internet, which I do, did you know the Illuminati's headquarters is in Denver International Airport? What? The word squirrel comes from the ancient Greek, and their word for squirrel was skirus. Sorry. Which translates to shadow tail. That's a pretty good spy name. Or a type of wine.
If you see a road a party, it's a good party.
Shadow tail is likely derived from the myth that squirrels would hide in the shade of their tails in hot weather. Cool. Is that true? I don't know. Cursory research only? That's the rule? Some math connections I made about squirrels and math, I just said that, to create the field of squirrel math. Like most rodents, squirrels have 4 teeth. I don't think that's enough to base an entire field of mathematics on. But there is a pretty cool joke to be made, and I'm about to make it.
Dad joke alert.
They have 4 teeth, not the joke. The joke, since I was writing about teeth and maths, well, the other word for tata is calculus.
I'm a computer.
That's a good joke. Calculus. Well, I make myself laugh, judging by the views on my videos. Someone has to. I hated calculus. I couldn't even tell you what that is in real math terms. Something to do with numbers. What else? Oh, I know. I wrote the piece as a professor giving the first lecture of the first semester in the course Introduction to Squirrel Math Art is Nuts. I got the professor to mention that since squirrels only find 20% of the nuts that they bury or hide, a passing grade for the course is only 20%, which, thinking back to my high school mathematics career, 20% would have been a good mark for me. I could pass this course. Nah, I was more in the 55% range. I could always pass. Barely.
You can do it.
But I digress. Another fun squirrel math fact that's actually based on a real fact. When squirrels run across fields and roads, have you ever noticed they do so often in a zig-zag pattern, very erratic, all over the place? Why do you think they do that?
Kind of nuts.
I wrote about the math of that and plotted it on the X and Y. Tell me why. Why they do it is actually as a defense mechanism against predators, whether from the air or on the ground. They're just jumpy all over the place. They do it to confuse. Doesn't seem to work on a Ford Raptor. See what I did there? Predators and raptors. Raptors. I didn't even use that joke in the piece. That's just for you. What else? In the thing I wrote, I bring up a character by the name of Roy Nuts Ballinger. He is the hero of the semester. And will be referred to during the course of any student's syllabus. Roy Nuts Ballinger has many lessons to impart in the fields of squirrel maths. And one of those things is Roy Nuts Ballinger, who is an art nut, stores his collected inspo nuts in a place called the equals some place. That is an Excel spreadsheet joke. Didn't see that coming, did you? It's a rather clever play on a... Is it clever?
It's all right.
It's a play on an Excel spreadsheet formula equals sum, and also someplace being where you would store stuff in Squirrel Math. It's all coming together. Once you store it there, who knows if it will ever form a part of some nutso nuts that you make, or it will be lost forever in the cell of time.
Nuts.
Never to be, to use a math term, an expression. Shit's deep.
Deep.
Side note, I hate Excel. I'm not sure I've ever adequately been able to explain why it is a bad idea to get creative people to write creative things inside the confines of an Excel spreadsheet cell. That cell is where words go to die.
Drama queen.
That cell is a little rectangular coffin for creativity. I'll say no more on it.
Squirrel?
Okay, we're back. Squirrel Math. Actually, I can't be bothered talking about the many and varied instances of math talk that I peppered that piece with, so the link to read it is around here somewhere. What I will talk about is the style options that I considered while writing this gem.
I've seen worse.
I've seen better.
Specifically, the POV, which stands for point of view. Yeah, I know things. When I first came up with the idea for Roy Nuts Ballinger, a Squirrel Math devotee, I thought that I might write it in the style of The Most Interesting Man in the World.
She goes nuts.
Do you remember that ad campaign?
His organ donation card also lists his beard.
That was a campaign for Dos Equis. Why can't anything just be easy to say? Anyway.
He once had an awkward moment, just to see how it feels.
It's an old campaign from back in the day. Let us read from the ancient texts a little bit about The Most Interesting Man in the World. The Most Interesting Man in the World was an advertising campaign. I added the ticing, it's just ticing. For Dos Equis beer.
I don't always drink beer.
Featuring actor Jonathan Goldsmith as a bearded, debonair older gentleman. It's not on that page. With voiceovers that were both humorous and outrageous. That's what it says here. The advertisements began appearing in the United States in 2006 and became a popular internet meme. The campaign ended in 2018. Thank you for your service, Wikipedia. And I guess Jonathan Goldsmith. Is that his name? Mr. Debonair.
He is the most most interesting man in the world.
So that's how I was going to write it, in that style. Roy doesn't do X because he does Y kind of deal. Axis, Y, Z, X, Y. Is that how it goes? Doesn't really matter how that construct works, because when it all boils down to it, I'm a lazy motherfucker. And the thought of having to work out all these, Roy doesn't do this because he does this, was just, it sounded so time consuming.
You're a lazy
I mean, it's also a lazy rip-off of a pre-existing concept.
Oh, lazy.
You get around that by calling it an homage. Anyway, the structure of that most interesting man concept follows a phrasal template. And now that I think about it, even the Dos Equis isn't really original, because all those Chuck Norris memes follow that same structure as well.
When Chuck Norris does a push-up, he's actually pushing the earth down.
I don't always X, but when I do, Y. Not Y, like the letter Y, not question mark. Squirrel Math is a thing.
I like math.
I could have made that construct work, but I didn't, and it worked anyway. Squirrel Math without a phrasal template and written in the style of a first semester address by a professor to a student body, laying out the principles of Squirrel Math or the syllabus that they will follow for the next semester, using a character by the name of Roy Nuts Ballinger as the hero, by which to demonstrate the tenets of the mathematics of the Squirrel. Why bother? The mathematics of the shadow tale. It's a shadowy art. I'll stop now. Psych! We're not stopping. Not yet. Almost, though, because we are pulling up at the true nut house now.
Art!
The art part of Squirrel Math. Art, she says confidently, is nuts. Nuts.
It's a metaphor.
It's all a metaphor. Or 5. Or 6. See what I did there? Ooh. So now, to wrap this up, for real this time, so that you may store this as a nut in your memory hole. That sounded weird. In your mind stump. That sounded even weirder. You're storing all of this away in the equal sum place, whatever that equivalent is for you. I will now summarise the theory of inspo nuts and not so nuts, aka the cornerstones
Foundation
of Squirrel Math. Just to remind you, in Squirrel Math, way back at the beginning, I mentioned that inspo nuts are the pieces of creativity that we collect during the course of our lifetimes. The books we read, the art we look at, the films we watch, the music we listen to, going to the ballet, that kind of stuff. We collect, sometimes even physically, but mentally, we collect the nut meats of these and store them within our brains. Some inspo nuts, and I'll say it again, up to 80% are never found. But they are all there in the equal sum place, all with the potential to affect our nutso-nuts that we give to the world, so that others may, who knows, collect them as inspo nuts of their own. Full circle. We may never find 80% of the nuts. Knowing that we may never be found, we keep making art. It's nuts, and yet the nuts we collect, store, consume, and make become the nut meats of our lives.
And scene.
There's a throwaway line in the thing that I wrote. The line is, add to the many, carry the one. It's something you do in mathematics, but it's also got a deeper meaning, of course. It's basically describing art. Not so much art, more the process of making and consuming and living a creative life.
Deep.
That line is art in a nutshell. add to the many. Go out, consume things, add it to the many sources that you already have inside your brain or are continually adding to. Add to your storage the knowledge and influences of the works of others. Then add to this great grand haul of things, that's Haul, with works of your own. Carry the one. In math terms, you're moving it over, you're making the total greater. And in art terms, I think the carry the one might even mean it carries the spirit of you over and on and makes it greater. I'm just kind of making this up.
Do go on.
The joy of one is carried by the many. We carry each other. Or something. I don't know. Add to the many, carry the one. That might be the founding principle of Squirrel Math. I think I might love Squirrel Math. There, I said it. I still hate human maths.
I have no ability.
That can take a long walk off a short pier, which sounds like the kind of cock-up calculation I would do. Okay, farewell, nutters. I'll see myself out.